Measles is caused by a single-stranded enveloped RNA virus that is part of the genus Morbillivirus and member of the Paramyxoviridae family. Due to the fact that the virus is an RNA virus, it is not simple to treat once a patient is infected. The immune system struggles to create antibodies to fight back against the virus since RNA is prone to mutations. RNA polymerase, the enzyme that catalyzes the synthesis of RNA from a template, does not have strong proofreading capabilities, causing the aforementioned mutations and additional diversifications. The measles virus is said to have evolved from the formerly widespread rinderpest virus, known for infecting cattle. Scientists, using sequential analysis, suggest that the virus probably met somewhere in the 11th and 12th centuries. The virus does have about 23 known variations to its genome, but antibodies against one genotype protect against all other genotypes. The virus typically infects immune cells in the respiratory tract, like macrophages and dendritic cells in the initial stage of infection. Eventually, the virus will be transmitted to the lymphoid organs and epithelial cells in the airways, breaking tissue specificity. These can be infected with receptors and cell-to-cell contact with infected immune cells. When epithelial cells are infected, the virus can then be released through the airway. The structure of the measles morbillivirus consists of a single strand of RNA with two envelope glycoproteins on its surface, hemagglutinin, the H protein, and membrane fusion protein, the F protein. Additional proteins include the phosphoprotein, the large protein, and the matrix protein. These proteins allow the virus to bind and invade a host cell, and can cause the fusion of the viral envelope to the cell's membrane. Once the virus enters the cell, it can then be replicated several times by RNA polymerase, using its own single-strand RNA as a template. The host cell's ribosomes will then mass translate these copies into viral proteins, and in this case, eventually causing the cell to lyse and releasing more of the virus and restarting the cycle. The first sign of measles is a high fever. This begins around 10 to 12 days after initial exposure to the virus and can last anywhere from 4 to 7 days. Additionally, a runny nose, red and watery eyes, and small white spots inside the cheeks occur in this initial stage. After the first stage, rashes start to erupt on the face and neck and spread to other parts of the body like the hands and feet. This rash will last around 5 to 6 days before fading, and at this point, the rash has occurred 2 weeks, on average, after initial exposure, within the range of 7 to 18 days. Within the U.S., 1 in 5 people who get measles are hospitalized. 1 in 1,000 will develop brain swelling, and 1 to 3 in 1,000 will die. Kids can still get it in the U.S., though statistically eliminated in 2000 due to unvaccinated travelers. Measles is widely known as one of the world's most contagious diseases. It spreads through coughing, sneezing, and close and direct contact. It often results in epidemics, many deaths among young children, and malnourished children. In countries where measles has been largely eradicated, cases from other countries are usually the primary source of infection. Unfortunately, there is no specific antiviral treatment for measles. However, there is a vaccine. This means that while there is no specific, surefire way to eradicate the disease from afflicted patients, a vaccine is used to prevent transmission and reception. The MMR vaccine is used to treat measles, mumps, and rubella. Mumps is characterized by similar symptoms to measles, but is generally defined by the swelling of the salivary glands and is also caused by another type of paramyxovirus. Rubella, with otherwise somewhat similar symptoms, is especially characterized by a rash that usually spreads from the face. For children, the first dose of the MMR vaccine should be given at around 12 to 15 months, and the second should be given by age 4 to 6. Anyone above this age, including teenagers and senior citizens, should get the vaccine as soon as possible, especially if they have not shown any evidence of immunity prior. Patients already diagnosed with measles should be given 2 doses of vitamin A supplement, each day apart. This is used to restore low vitamin A levels caused by disease, even if the patient is otherwise healthy and not malnourished. Antibiotics should be prescribed to treat eye and ear infections, pneumonia, and other symptoms that can result due to measles. To reduce severe consequences, supportive care, good nutrition, adequate fluid intake, and treatment of dehydration should be implemented. Lots of fluids need to be replaced since they are lost through diarrhea and vomiting. At this point, the measles and MMR vaccines have been used officially globally for around 60 years. In 2018, 86% of the world's children received one dose of measles vaccine by their first birthday. Around the world, 19.2 million infants are estimated to not be vaccinated with at least one dose, 6.1 million of these being in India, Nigeria, and Pakistan. Mass immunization efforts and campaigns have been created, especially in countries dealing with many cases, high death rates, and low immunization numbers. One example of these efforts is in India, as the official Measles Rubella campaign. The campaign aims to rapidly build up immunity for both measles and rubella diseases in the community so as to eradicate them. All children from 9 months to 14 years should be given one shot of the measles rubella vaccine. The first stage of this campaign was completed in 2017, reaching 97% of the intended age group in 5 states. Since its launch, the campaign has reached 30 states and union territories across India. These efforts have allowed the measles virus to become much rarer and harder to acquire. When having conversations about such a transmissible disease like measles, naturally the question of who is most susceptible to getting this illness comes up. Point blank, unvaccinated children are at the highest risk for getting the disease and are also at the highest risk of dying. Additionally, unvaccinated pregnant women remain at higher risk. Anyone unprotected can easily get the disease, however. Measles remains common in many developing countries, specifically in parts of Asia and Africa. More than 95% of deaths related to measles occur in countries with low per capita incomes and weak health infrastructure. The eradication of measles is dependent upon herd immunity, requiring a certain proportion of a community to be immunized. If this certain number of people can be immunized, protection is received even for those unvaccinated since the rate of transmission is so low. Though measles is not as common of an affliction today, especially in comparison with other diseases like influenza, COVID-19, and the common cold, it was once one of the most recurrent viruses globally. Before the vaccine was created in the 1950s, there were major measles epidemics every 2 to 3 years, resulting in approximately 2.6 million deaths each year. The virus was initially formed from rinderpest, which infects cattle, and began causing infections in humans, possibly as early as 4th century BC. Sometime in the 11th to 12th century, the measles virus became completely independent of rinderpest. Measles is an endemic disease, meaning people can develop resistance to it over time. A 1529 outbreak in Cuba was devastating to the population, killing 2/3 of the indigenous people who had not been exposed to the virus. An 1846 outbreak in Faroe Islands was very well studied, with about 3/4 of the population getting sick. 20% of Hawaii's population was killed by measles in the 1850s, and 40,000 Fijians died in 1875. Licensed vaccines were finally made available in 1963, developed by Maurice Hilleman. Though officially eliminated from the United States in 2000, it can still be brought by international travelers. In 2019, New York reported about 1,000 cases of the disease. Between 1855 and 2000, measles is believed to have killed 200 million people worldwide. To conclude, measles, though largely eradicated today, has had a large effect on global development and remains one of the most impactful diseases to date.